Kalimera. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today at this event, bringing together defense and space. I'm here on behalf of the European Commission's Directorate General for Defense Industry and Space, specifically the Space Single Market Unit. So, in my remarks today, I would like to present our approach to fostering dual-use research and innovation, mainly from the space perspective. Today, we face more threats in space: geopolitical, economic, and strategic threats. These threats are increasing both in number and in diversity, and space can no longer be considered a sanctuary, and this was illustrated previously also from other speakers in the morning session. The threat spectrum now includes jamming, spoofing, cyber attacks on ground segments, directed energy, kinetic anti-satellite weapons. Satellites are now routinely implicated in active conflicts, which means that European operators may become a potential target. At the same time, our systems and space assets remain heavily dependent on components sourced from outside the EU and broadly outside Europe. Our industry is highly competent, dynamic, but it nonetheless risks falling behind in terms of market competitiveness, both in terms of supply, technology supply chains, but also in terms of service provisions. Therefore, this is a clear call to action. First, we need the necessary space defense capabilities. Space, as was also said this morning very clearly, is the backbone of a wide range of operations: commercial, governmental, institutional, both civil and defense, and it must be protected. The question is no longer whether this is necessary, it is how and how fast we can do that. We need to defend the Union's security interests in and from space to maintain our freedom of action in space. The EU space program already provides critical building blocks: Galileo PRS for encrypted positioning, RS2, secure connectivity, radio frequency monitoring, and EU space surveillance and tracking for space situational awareness. As we speak, discussions about an Earth observation governmental service are ongoing with member states, enhancing the portfolio. At the same time, the EU and its member states must also develop the capability to act in space, the ability to protect, maintain, and service its space assets. In-space operations and services will be fundamental to the resilience, protection, and sustainability of commercial, institutional, and governmental assets. The European Space Shield is the architecture that is being discussed with our member states to connect such programs, R&I actions, both civil and defense-related, as well as member states' initiatives and commercial capabilities into a coherent system. Since March 26, we have been conducting a structured consultation process with dedicated workshops, bringing together MODs, space ministries, space agencies, and industry to discuss the proposal, its scope, priorities, and the capability gaps. Furthermore, technological sovereignty lies at the heart of the Commission's mandate. As our President has said, Europe cannot afford to fall behind and lose its competitive edge in this race, nor can it leave any strategic vulnerabilities exposed. In this context, the EU Observatory of Critical Technologies for Space and Defense has a crucial role to play. The observatory has been operational since 2023, and it has been established by the Commission to analyze relevant supply chain, identify gaps and dependencies, and propose mitigation measures. In particular, it supports the development of focused EU technology roadmaps for space and defense, which inform technology development programs. To date, 14 classified technology reports have been produced, and 3 technology roadmaps have been drafted in consultation with industry and member states, and more to follow. These roadmaps are already being translated into R&I actions, closing gaps, reducing dependencies, and addressing urgent needs, while preserving competitiveness and ensuring direct EU technology insertion into EU space missions. But technology alone is not enough. It is equally essential to advance sovereign EU capabilities. In-space operations and services is one strategic domain with a plethora of ongoing and planned activities worldwide, including demonstrations in space, the first services in space, and standardization. The European Commission has the concrete objective of flying a pilot mission by 2030 in cooperation with member states and the European Space Agency as a first step towards a future European in-space service infrastructure. This service infrastructure shall provide on-demand services to assets in space. In this regard, we are delighted that a few weeks ago, Greece also joined the signature of the ISOS Joint Declaration, together with other 8 member states and one EEA country, to underline its commitment to this strategic topic. Other future-oriented emerging space capabilities in which we must invest include quantum technologies and advanced in-space digitalization, enabling in-space computing through strategic technologies such as Edge AI. This will be critical not only for emerging commercial opportunities in the frame of a new space economy, but also for defense actors by enabling secure processing, encryption, fast, real-time space data analysis, response, and autonomous decision-making. Innovation is not only in the what, however, it is also in the how. For the first time, we are developing these digitalization, highly relevant capabilities within the scope of a public-private partnership, the first for space research and innovation. The objectives and goals outlined above are not just ambitions. They are all reflected in a dedicated article of the Commission's proposal for the European Competitiveness Fund as part of the next multi-annual financial framework. Now, all the technologies and systems I have referred to are primarily being developed under a civil umbrella. However, they should be designed with interoperability and compatibility in mind so that they can also serve defense users where applicable and upon request. Dual use is not a label to be attached to a technology or a system simply. It means creating the condition for a possible uptake of civil space services technologies by defense actors. Lastly, none of these ambitions in the area of space and defense can be realized without national initiatives across Europe. Greece is allocating 350 million from the Recovery and Resilience Facility through Hellas Space 2.0 in a strategy that was announced a few days ago that is highly compatible with our vision. Ladies and gentlemen, in these brief remarks, I have outlined some of our concrete actions to foster dual-use research and innovation, particularly from the space perspective. The key message is simple: Europe must not fall behind. It must develop sovereign, forward-looking technologies and services that will provide both the capabilities of tomorrow and the means to protect its assets. And these technologies and services must also remain competitive and relevant to the market. Let's not forget that. I began by speaking about threats. Let me conclude by speaking about opportunities. Thank you very much.